One day it was a very overcast day. I remember the cloud was low, about 1,000 feet. And there was debate as whether we should be sent out or not, but eventually I decided to go and do a armed recce, which meant going around looking for trouble and trying to eliminate it. We went out, we found nothing, and on the way back we saw movement on the ground, and we went into Strafe. And suddenly all the flak in the world opened up. There was red balls and black puffs and white puffs and you name it. And I was flying a not my normal aircraft. This one hadn't been, I don't think, trimmed very well. So it flew with a rather tortoise-like motion, and I was lagging behind, so I got most of the flak. And I remember looking at the left as I was going along, and I looked in the window of a farmhouse, the first floor window of a farmhouse. So I was quite low. And then my aircraft was hit, the engine seized, the engine caught fire, not the fuel tank fortunately, just the engine, and clouds of white smoke billowed out. I could see nothing in front of me, I could only see out over the wingtips. And on the left there were houses, on the right there was a plantation of, I think it was olive trees, and what was in front I didn't know. So I thought of bailing out, but as I pulled out, I thought I might have enough speed. As I pulled up, I got more flak, so I decided to land. And then I just said to myself, Lord, you've got her. When you're a pupil and you're doing various test programs, when you're finished, you'd say to the instructor, you've got her, sir. And he would say, I've got her. So I just said, you've got her, Lord, and then I kind of relaxed and just kept on. I obviously turned off all the switches and did all the right things in that way. And then I wheels up, went in, and hit the ground, a hell of a noise, and it bounced around and stood up on its nose and nearly went over on its back and came down again. And I think I was a bit dazed. I don't know whether it was a few minutes or a few seconds. When I got out, there were a lot of armed Germans rushing in towards me. So I thought the best thing to do was to hold up my arms and say, "Kamerad," which I did. And it was the correct thing to do because they came and searched me and then were going to take me away. And then I had a look, and then about 50 meters in front of me was the flood bank of a river, which is a very solid thing. So fortunately I didn't hit that. And also I found that the radio, the guts of the radio is just behind the cockpit, and that had been taken out by a cannon shell. So it was all very, very quite close. Anyway, then I was taken away by these guys, taken to their CO, who was a major, and he could speak reasonably good English. And he asked me a few questions, and I said to him, well, you know, the war's just about over. He said he agreed the war was just about over, but he said they were Germans and they would keep fighting until they were told to stop. And anyway, he said, that Goering, incidentally what I've been shot down by was the Goering flak regiment, a detachment from them, so that's why the flak was so heavy. And he said, well, Goering had said, any Allied airman shot down must be very well treated. And he said, if I had been shot down about half a kilometre to the east, I would have landed up with the SS, and he said that would have been tickets because they just shot anybody they got. Anyway, it took me, two guys wait around for a while, and then two guys came along, one with a Schmeiser submachine gun, and the other one with a pick and a shovel, which I didn't fancy too much, but anyway, they took me towards a wooded area. I was wondering, but I was about 5 meters in front of them, so it's difficult to know what to do. Anyway, I thought, well, I'll just stick it out and see what happens. Anyway, they took me through and nothing happened, and they took me through to a double-story building where there were a lot of Italian girls and German soldiers mulling around, and they put me in a room. upstairs room with a guard outside and a guard under the window, and left me there for the night. Then in the morning I had a bit more interrogating done to me. Then I was taken out and locked up in the back of a windowless panel van, and two Germans locked me in there, and we set off. They said they were taking me to a POW camp. And I didn't fancy this because we were travelling by day, and I knew there were aircraft around just looking for something moving to shoot up, and I was locked inside this thing. But anyway, we eventually stopped towards evening, and they let me out. And then they were going to lock me up again. I said, no man, let me stay out. And they said, well, I don't know how we were communicating, because they spoke German and quite a bit of Italian. I spoke very little Italian, no German, English and Afrikaans, but somehow or another we managed to communicate quite well. And I said, they said, well, look, if you promise not to escape in the night, give us your word of honour, we'll let you stay out. So I said, okay. Then we went into the farmhouse, and they found an empty farmhouse, found some bottles of vino, so we had a few drinks and got quite pally. And next morning, they allowed me to sit on the roof of the panel van with my legs over the back, with one of the other Germans sitting on top as a guard. We went along for a while, and then we met up with two more Germans, and they got chatting, and then we decided to stop and have lunch. And while we were having lunch, we found some more vino, so we had another little bit of a party. And I was getting on quite well with these guys, and I said, well, look, you know, it's near the end of the war now, and all you guys are going to be coming into the POW camp. It'll be crowded like hell. Why don't you come with me, come back with me now, and then I'll give you a recommendation. And they talked this over, and I thought, well, it was quite a good idea. So I said, okay, we'll do that. So we came to an agreement whereby the only armament we had was the Schmeiser submachine gun and a Beretta pistol. So they said the Beretta would be, the Schmeiser would be communal. If we came across Germans, I would be their prisoner, and if we came across partisans, they would be my prisoner. So we turned around and set back for the lines. And we stopped for the night somewhere and had another little party. And then we carried on, and we came to a farmhouse, an inhabited farmhouse. It was getting towards evening, so we stopped and asked for if we could stay there, and they said, yeah, sure, that'll be fine. And we could sleep in the loft with a lot of straw and stuff. And they brought out the vino and some bread and cheese, and we had another little party. We had quite a lot of parties on this trip. And so then we had another little party, and then we went off to... meanwhile, one of them, he was a Feldwebel. He had a camera, so he was taking pictures of us, photographs. And anyway, then we went and got into this loft and went to sleep. And they must have tipped up the partisans, because early next morning we were woken up by a fearsome-looking guy with a gun pointing at us, saying, Tedeschi, raus, raus, aus, aus, because Tedeschi was the Italian name for the Germans. The Germans were terrified, but I picked up the Schmeiser and pointed at him and said, no, Tedeschi mio prigionieri, hoping that it was Italian that they would understand, which they did. And they, after a bit of a face-off, they said, okay, come out. So we went out, and then they gave us a guide to take us through lines, because you could hear the shells bursting and machine gun, but it was very fluid at that time. And so this guy led us through, we managed to get through okay, met up with some Canadians, and they took over the Germans, and I gave them each a note saying that they'd saved my life and how good they were and what have you. Otto Wagner was his name. he gave me his camera. He said he knew that the Canadians would loot it from him anyway, and he'd rather I had it. So I took it, and that was the last I saw of them. I tried to get hold of them after the war, but it was hopeless. I mean, the Red Cross weren't interested because there were about 30 million displaced people wandering all over Europe. And so I never got to hear of them again. But from there, then that was the end of my war.